What's up, fam? It's your boy Legend, and I am back with another video. You already know what this is just by looking at the thumbnail. What if Naruto was sent to the Akame got killed universe? If you guys like this video, make sure to hit that like button. Subscribe while you at it. The like goal for this video was going to be 5 likes. But I want to see if you guys could get more than 5 likes within, let's say, 16 hours. Yeah. Five likes is the goal, but if you could get more than 5 within 16 hours, I will be extremely happy, and I will most likely give you another part within that 16-hour mark. But without further ado, let's just get into this intro so we can start this what if.
And now, this world shall know pain. Almighty. Push.
The smell of scorched blood still lingered faintly in the air, even after the night winds had passed and silence reclaimed the forest. Morning sunlight filtered through the windows of the dining hall, illuminating the battered wooden table where all of Night Raid had gathered. The mission had been completed. The intruding tribe that stormed their territory had been wiped out swiftly and ruthlessly. But the tension in the room wasn't the kind that came after victory. It was the kind that came when you realized your home was no longer hidden. Najida stood at the head of the table, arms folded, her single eye sharp as a blade. Akame sat near her, perfectly still, her crimson gaze staring forward with unreadable calm. Lubbock leaned against the far table, arms crossed, lips pursed in quiet thought. Shell, ever gentle, toyed with her glasses but said nothing, her scissors laid across her lap. Leone was sprawled back in her chair, golden eyes watching the room with an intensity that betrayed her usual relaxed facade. Across from them, Tatsumi, Seiya, and Ieyasu sat side by side, their shoulders tight and expressions heavy. None across from them, Tatsumi, Seiya, and Ieyasu sat side by side, their shoulders tight and expressions heavy. No one had called them out yet, but the unspoken accusation was already thick in the air. Someone led that tribe to us, Najinda began, her voice low but commanding. And it wasn't dumb luck. They knew how to navigate the terrain. They moved with precision. Maybe there was a spy in town, Lubbock offered, scratching the back of his neck. We've seen that before. Could have been a trap laid by the Empire, Shell added gently. Scouting party, looking for weaknesses. They weren't Imperial, Akame said. No signs of training, no organized formation. They were tribal, wild, but they moved like they had a map. They didn't just stumble onto us, Najida agreed. They were led. The room went quiet for a moment. All eyes turned to one another, searching for answers. Leone leaned forward, her elbows on the table, eyes narrowing. They came from the northeast side of the ridge, she said. That's where we sent the 3 newbies. Tatsumi's jaw clenched. Seiya glanced at Ieyasu, who stared down at his hands. But we didn't see anyone, Seiya muttered. We were careful. We didn't. You weren't careful enough. The voice cut through the room like a knife. Everyone turned toward Naruto, who had been silent until now, standing at the far end of the room, arms folded across his chest. He stepped forward, his tone calm but cold, every word laced with weight. Is everyone done talking? He asked, scanning their faces. Good. This is how they found us. He turned his attention directly to the three seated recruits: Tatsumi, Iesu, Seiyo. All three of you led them here like a bunch of inexperienced children. Seiyo recoiled slightly, and Iesu's face went red. I saw the signs, Naruto continued. I saw you were being followed halfway back. I could have stopped it. I could have slipped into the trees, cut their throats, and you wouldn't have even noticed that I was there. The room was dead silent, but I didn't. Because if I did, you wouldn't learn from your mistake. You need to feel what it means to be careless, to endanger everyone. Naruto turned away without another word and made his way down the hall, his footsteps heavy against the wooden floorboards. No one stopped him. No one said a word. The second he left, Najinda exhaled slowly and fixed a sharp glare at the three recruits. But Leone didn't stay for the fallout. She pushed away from the table and rose, ignoring the voices starting to rise behind her as the reprimands began. Her eyes followed Naruto's retreating figure until he disappeared down the hall. Without a word, she followed. He didn't bother locking his door. When she stepped into his room, he was standing by the window, the light casting a soft glow along the edge of his face. He didn't turn around. "You're not here to scold them either?" he asked. "Nope," Leone said, closing the door behind her. "Didn't feel like it." Naruto glanced at her, brow slightly raised. She stepped closer, folding her arms across her chest. "I wanted to ask you something." He waited. "What's your type?" she asked casually. "Like, what kind of girl would actually win you over?" He blinked, surprised by the question, but not annoyed. He thought about it for a moment, then shrugged slightly. "I don't really have a type," he said. "I'm willing to give anyone a chance, as long as they're genuine." Leone tilted her head. "And how would a girl win your heart then?" But this time Naruto said nothing. He gave her a small, unreadable smile and turned back toward the window. She waited. Nothing came. "Right," she muttered with a chuckle that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Guess I walked into that one." She turned and left without another word, quietly closing the door behind her. As she walked down the hall, her smile faded. Her steps slowed. "Genuine, huh?" The word echoed in her mind like a drum beat. Was I ever genuine with him? Or just loud, flirty, and easy? She thought of every time she'd leaned over to show off her chest, every playful slap on the arm, every wink, every sly comment meant to get a reaction. Was that ever the real me? Or just a mask? For the first time since she joined Night Raid, Leone didn't feel confident. She felt exposed. And for the first time in a long while, she wasn't sure if Naruto ever saw her as anything more than a game that she kept playing. And that realization stung deeper than she had expected. 3 days after the meeting, the training session ended just like it had the past 3 days, under the weight of sweat, bruises, and quiet determination. Naruto stood at the edge of Night Raid's modest training field, watching Tatsumi gasp for breath, Ieyasu hold his wrists after another disarming drill, and Seiyo stared silently at her target dummy, her blade still humming with the last strike. "Alright, that's enough for today," Naruto called out. His voice held the sharp edge of command, but his smile softened it. "Same time tomorrow." The three nodded in exhausted unison. It had become a ritual, 30 minutes each day of grueling repetition. Naruto didn't waste time with half efforts, not when death waited behind every shadow in the empire. Wiping his hands on the towel draped over his shoulder, Naruto turned to head back toward the hideout, his usual shortcut taking him around a small bend past the spring. That's when it happened. Clink, splash. He bumped into someone, hard enough that the person stumbled back a step, and something light and plastic hit the ground, followed by a softer thud. The bottle rolled lazily to the edge of the path, water leaking from its cracked cap. "Oh, I'm so sorry," a feminine voice gasped. Naruto blinked and looked down. Shell was on her hands and knees, crawling after her falling glasses, her long purple hair brushing the dusty ground. She wore her usual violet dress, elegant and silent as always, slit high on the side to allow movement, with the familiar cold gleam of her massive imperial arms ecstasy. Strapped behind her, her violet eyes squinted helplessly. Naruto bent down quickly, picking up her glasses, just as she reached for them too. Their fingers brushed, and Shell's cheeks colored with the faintest of blushes. "Sorry," she whispered again, lifting her head. Naruto froze. His breath hitched. In that moment, up close and with her hair slightly tousled, her eyes searching but soft, she was beautiful. "She's even prettier than Princess Kayoki." He swallowed hard and gently slipped the glasses back onto her face, his fingers trembling ever so slightly as he adjusted the frame over her ears. She blinked rapidly, vision refocusing, and then, without a word, she raised a hand and placed it on his forehead. "Do you have a fever?" she asked, with genuine concern. The gesture hit Naruto in the chest like a fist. He remembered. He remembered Hinata, the shy looks, the soft voice, the way she'd go red, and he would do the same thing to her that Shell just did to him. Check her temperature. He chuckled, a quiet, nostalgic sound. "No," he replied. "It's just, you're extremely pretty." The words came out faster than he'd intended, and before Shell could react, Naruto scooped up her water bottle and handed it over with a small bow of apology. Then, red-faced and awkward, he turned and strode off down the hall, leaving her standing there, stunned. Shell watched him disappear around the corner. Her hand lingered on the now warm plastic of the bottle. She didn't understand. He acted like he was afraid of her, like the compliment hurt him. She didn't know. She didn't know about the girl he used to like, the one who screamed louder than thunder and struck harder than fists. She didn't know how often he'd offered her compliments, only to be met with bruises. She didn't know that every time he confessed his feelings, it ended in pain. She didn't know he had been broken one blow at a time until praise became fear and affection became shame. All she knew was a boy who thought she was pretty and then ran. From her place at the end of the hall, Najinda had seen it all. Her mechanical arm rested on the railing, a smirk curling at the corner of her lips. She chuckled to herself, amused beyond words. "Poor Shell," she muttered. "And poor Naruto." Time skip. 2 days later. It was a normal, routine mission. Mine and Shell were supposed to just get information on a high-ranking Imperial officer. Well, they did what they were supposed to do, and now they were on their way back to base. And they were moving like they had a purpose. However, they were not as alert as they should be. As the two of them ran past a tree on the side of the road, a woman who was perched in a tree smiled evilly before jumping out of the tree and slamming down in the middle of the road with her imperial arms. Upon landing, she created a giant dust cloud, and there would be a small crater where she landed. When Shell and Mine were done shielding their eyes, they would look up to see a woman with chestnut-colored hair, dressed in a white Imperial uniform with a small dog-looking Imperial arms next to her. They would then watch her hold up a piece of paper. Shell of Night Raid, I presume? The moment Suryu started to speak, Shell removed the cover from her Imperial arms, Extase, and mine would brandish her Imperial arms, Pumpkin. But before the three could start fighting, Shell and mine would see Koro suddenly grow 10 times his size and grow giant arms in the most disgusting manner. Meanwhile, Naruto was outside of Night Raid's hideout, and he was making his way towards the lake where his armored water viper was. Upon reaching the lake, he entered Sage mode and splashed his hand in the water. It didn't take long for the water to start to swell and the aquatic danger beast to appear. Naruto's pet the beast, and a thought entered his mind. I still haven't given you a name yet. I should probably do that. Naruto would then jump onto the beast and lay down on top of its head and relax. All he would do is stare up at the stars as the aquatic beast swam on the surface of the water, thinking of names. All of a sudden, he would see an extremely bright white light that caught his attention. It was a thing it would be if you were actually there. But then Naruto would stop and think, why was there suddenly a random bright light illuminating that much area? Naruto stood and jumped to dry land and began to sprint back to the Night Raid hideout, since it was in the same direction as the light was coming from. Upon arriving, Naruto would burst through the doors, causing Leone, Najinda, Seiyo, Ieyasu, Tatsumi, and Akame to look at Naruto as if he was crazy. Before any of them could speak, Naruto had already beat them to it. Did anyone else see that bright-ass light show in the distance? This would cause everyone who knew Shell and her trump card to narrow their eyes. Worry now setting in for everyone. Najinda would be the first to speak. Where was this supposed light show? And what color was the light? Naruto was quick to answer, making his way over to the balcony. It was to the northeast, and it was a blinding white color. Naruto was still being Sage mode, and suddenly both him and Leone would hear the sound of a gunshot followed by a loud scream of agony. With no words spoken, Naruto would move, jumping over the railing and disappearing in a body flicker towards the sound, not knowing what he was about to run into. Meanwhile, Shell stood above Suryu, holding her giant pair of scissors, ready to remove the psychotic Imperial soldier's head. Both of Suryu's arms had been cut off, and to the naked eye she looked helpless, but she wasn't. Far from it, actually. She just wasn't ready to reveal everything she had up her sleeve. And that was because she had a plan. But if she died here, then the plan was useless. Koro, use your trump card. Go berserk. With mine, she was forced to jump away to create some space, lest she be killed instantly from an unknown variable. Koro, the now giant dog-like Imperial arms, was now going through a transformation. His eyes rolled to the back of his head and became more pharaoh-like. His fur, the color of it changed from a white to a dark brown, and he became extremely shredded. When his transformation was finished, he let out a loud roar. And here is where mine made one of many mistakes throughout the entire fight that she and Shell were fighting for their lives. Her first mistake was her arrogance at the beginning of the fight. Her second mistake was her now starting to fight in a panic when Suryu blew that whistle to call for more reinforcements. And finally, her third and last mistake was her covering her eyes when Koro roared after his transformation. While mine was covering her eyes, she was snatched up by Koro in one giant hand. Once he got a grip on her, it was looking grim for her, There was no way for her to escape on her own, and Seryu saw this, and her eyes filled with glee. Good boy, Koro! Now squeeze! Koro began to squeeze mine, causing her bones to slowly break under all the pressure, and mine would start to scream in agony, calling for Shell with tears in her eyes. Then, in a flash, mine was free, with Koro's arm cut clean off. Mine smiled at Shell in gratitude. Then, bang! Shell was shot in her spine, right in between her shoulder blades, by Suryu, who had a gun built into the back of her throat. Shell began to fall forward, her body paralyzed from the chest down, so she was unable to move. All Mine could do was watch with her mouth agape, and Koro was approaching fast, mouth open, ready to bite Shell in half. Koro was now only inches away, and his jaws were already starting to close. Finally, Koro's jaw snapped shut, but Mine, Suryu, Shell, and even Koro looked surprised when Shell was not in the jaws of the organic beast. Shell looked up and saw a pair of crimson eyes with cross-slitted pupils. She gasped. Naruto was holding her like a bride on the branch of a tree. Naruto looked up to assess the situation, his eyes falling onto Seryu, giving her a look that promised death. Then, his gaze fell onto Mine, who was still on the ground trying to get a hold of her Imperial Arms pumpkin. Then, he locked eyes with Koro, who took a step forward. Naruto narrowed his eyes at the organic beast, causing it to back down and tuck its ears behind his head. Then his gaze snapped to the right, and there were at least 100 Imperial soldiers running towards them. They had to go, and fast. Naruto body flickered in front of Mine and crouched down. Get on now, and don't let go. Mine did as told, holding on to Naruto with one arm and using her broken arm to grip Pumpkin. Naruto then body flickered away, putting the safety of Shell and Mine first. One day later, Naruto lay flat on the floor of the shared infirmary room, chest slowly rising and falling, his face damp with sweat. The wooden planks beneath him were cool against his overheated skin, offering fleeting relief. His eyes were half-lidded, barely open, gazing blankly at the ceiling beams above. He hadn't moved in over 20 minutes, not because he couldn't, but because for once he allowed himself to rest. 2 hours earlier, he had been in a state of absolute focus, hands glowing faintly with the golden hue of Sage Mode chakra as he carefully removed bullet fragments embedded dangerously in Shell's spine. The process was delicate, inch by inch, chakra pulse by pulse, and every motion deliberate. One mistake, and she might never walk again, or worse. But Naruto didn't make mistakes when it mattered. He didn't allow himself to. Now, Shell rested peacefully in the bed beside Mine, still unconscious but stable. Her breath came steady, her body relaxed despite the trauma she'd endured. She wasn't able to move her legs yet. Her nerves were still reconnecting, still knitting together, thanks to the sage-infused healing he'd pushed into her. The recovery would take time, and Naruto would be there for every second of it. On the bed beside her, Mine lay with one arm in a sling and thick bandages wrapped around her side. Her pink eyes followed Naruto from above, narrowed slightly with annoyance and secretly concern. Idiot, she muttered under her breath, shifting slightly. Her ribs still ached. He hasn't even eaten yet. Naruto had prepared a massive meal earlier that evening, scavenging fresh meat from a slain danger beast and pairing it with grilled river fish he caught that morning. He spent nearly an hour making it taste good, not just edible, good. Something to lift spirits, something warm. But when the time came to eat, he barely touched his plate. He'd sat beside the bed, gently feeding Shell small spoonfuls of broth and rice, making sure she swallowed slowly, Then he did the same for mine, despite her protest. I can feed myself, you know, she growled. Not with your arm like that, he replied calmly, brushing her hair behind her ear in a casual motion that felt way too practiced for mine's liking. Now the room was dim and quiet, a single oil lamp casting flickering shadows along the walls. Naruto's chakra was finally starting to replenish. The toll Sage Mode took when applied for healing was brutal. His muscles still throbbed, and his fingers twitched from the aftershocks of such precise control. Still, to him, it had been worth it. He wasn't going on any missions. He wasn't planning on joining the next strike. As far as Naruto was concerned, his mission right now had only two names: Shell and mine. And Night Raid had noticed. From Akame's silent, sharp-eyed stares during dinner to Leone's smirk and too loud whispering, the others had begun to sense something beneath the surface. Naruto's devotion to Shell was just a little too intense, a little too personal. Sure, he helped mine, reset her broken arm, stitched her up, and healed her ribs, but when it came to Shell, he watched her like a storm watched the horizon, protective, quiet, always hovering near. When Lubbock peeked in earlier that evening, supposedly to check on the girls, he didn't miss the subtle way Naruto's body tensed, just slightly, as if subconsciously placing himself between Shell and any perceived threat. Leone had cornered Tatsumi after dinner, arms crossed under her chest. You noticed it too, right? She asked, voice low. Tatsumi blinked, confused. Notice what? Come on, she groaned. Naruto? Shell? He's been hovering over her like a doting housewife. That's not normal. Tatsumi looked and scratched the back of his head. He did save her life. Maybe he's just, being considerate. Leone rolled her eyes. Sure, that's what you call spoon feeding a girl soup with a damn cloth over her chin, just so she doesn't spill it on herself. Back in the infirmary room, Naruto finally sat up with a low grunt. His body felt like it was made of stone, but he stretched anyway. A dull ache settled into his spine, but his eyes immediately moved to the beds. Shell stirred faintly, her head turning towards him, her glasses slightly askew on her face. Naruto moved instantly, kneeling beside her. He adjusted them with gentle fingers. But guys, I'm going to leave it off right here. If you guys enjoyed the video, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe while you're at it. But without further ado, I am out, and I will see you guys within the next video. Stay blessed, y'all.